Welcome back to another episode of Red Tinted Glasses. It is 48 hours after Friday night football, where me and Calum enjoyed a day out together on the trip up to Dingwall. Calum, you were definitely enjoying yourself more than me, it's fair to say, with your happy juice on the bus up. Fully recovered?
Yeah, just about. Sunday evening, I'm in good condition now. I've decided as soon as I got off the bus, I was like, I'll just get some food and go home, behave myself. So throughout the day on Friday, I had steak pie before I left
Yeah.
at the Holborn. I had two pies at the game, and then two pies after the game. So the answer to the question, who ate all the pies, is definitely me.
Yeah, not the steward behind the goal.
No.
For those that were at Dingwall will know exactly what we mean. But how good, I know you like raving about the pies at Pataudry, and it seems that this podcast sometimes turns into a bit of a pie chat, but
Mm.
you know, Killie pies get a lot of praise. I know a lot of people say they're overrated, but that staggy pie on Friday night, I don't know if you remember it. I was banging on about on the way home. Basically, it was a venison pie and it was
Mm.
absolutely phenomenal. Same price as a steak pie, but well worth the £4.
Well, I was stupid. I got enticed by the steak and black pudding pie. There was none, and then I said, "Oh, I'll have steak pies." Then should have got the venison one. But you know what? I mean, I got a lasagna pie afterwards, and my dad, it turns out, in recent developments, has emailed the club about his fume about the state of the pie situation. But I thoroughly enjoyed myself. I think they were much needed for myself by that point.
Yeah, well, yeah, you said it, not me. But it was a good day out nonetheless, and singing Adele on the way back to someone like you throwing in Duke instead of you, more than made up for that, and really made the journey back seem a lot quicker because it did take fucking ages.
Oh, it was ridiculous. The way up, especially, was awful. Getting stuck going through Nairn and all that stuff, disaster. But it was well worth it in the end.
Absolutely, of course. We will be looking back at Friday night's 1-0 win over Ross County on the episode today. I can't wait to hear Calum's thoughts on the goals and what happened when he saw that live or not. And of course, looking forward to what is a huge game this weekend as Rangers come to town on Sunday. It's a Sunday 4:30 p.m. kickoff UK time, live on Sky Sports. So we'll be looking at that game and also discussing kind of a bit more in depth on Barry Robson and our thoughts after what's been a really impressive run of results for the Dons. We'll look at the team news. I think the biggest surprise, Calum, was the omission of Yilber Ramadani, so influential in that win over Kilmarnock the week before, missing due to illness, and Ryan Duncan starting in that number 10 role. I think it was fair to say when the team news came out, there was a bit of concern
Mhm.
that Ramadani was going to be quite a big miss.
Absolutely, and also concerned about sort of the length of his absence, which thankfully it turns out illness, I believe. But yeah, I was pretty worried to start off with, and I think we certainly missed him, but thankfully managed to get through, and hopefully be fit for next week given the occurrences throughout the game.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, Graham Shinney coming in, replacing Gilbert Ramadani, and might be like for like again next week. More on that
Mhm.
as we go on. But I just wondered if there was maybe a bit of a sickness bug that was maybe affecting the squad, because of course something that I didn't even realize until the day after was, of course, Jay Gorter's omission from the matchday squad. Joe Lewis taking the bench. Jay didn't, and I can see by your face that you didn't even notice that until I mentioned it just now. So, as ever, we're completely on the ball.
Exactly. I do remember seeing Joe Lewis after the game celebrating, but it didn't click in my head. No.
Yeah, it wasn't until someone came up to me in Tesco to comment about the RAMIREZ podcast and then said about weird that Jay Gorter wasn't in the squad, and I was like, was he? Like, oh yeah, okay. But yeah, no. So one, haven't heard anything mentioned about it, so I'm not sure again if that was illness or if there's another injury, because I think we were speaking out after the St Johnstone game where Tom Ritchie mentioned he'd picked up a bit of a knock, but he was back on the bench for the Kilmarnock game and then back out the squad. So a bit of a weird one going on there.
Absolutely, but hopefully there will be no more illness, especially with what's to come. It's very important, but these things do happen. Thankfully, we seem to have Well, I was going to say three goalkeepers suitable, at least two that can step in. The midfield, however, we're a bit more light in there, but we managed to get through it, and that's the main thing.
Yeah, well, I was going to say at least we have a bit of depth about the squad, but it doesn't really feel like Barry Robson wants to really utilise that depth. Judging by his substitutions, maybe a little bit of trust issues within the squad, or maybe just players not training hard enough to merit appearances just now. And I think for me that really kind of came to the fore because I really didn't think Ryan Duncan had his best game on Friday night. Was maybe surprised with some of the substitutions and how he managed to last so long in the game, but maybe that says a lot about Dylan Marcandi. And well, I don't think Patrick Mislovic is maybe that more advanced player, but maybe just shows that we are just slightly lacking that bit of creativity on the bench.
Yeah, possibly, which could potentially come back to bite us if we are chasing a game. But at the same time, it seems weirdly similar to sort of, his tutor, if you could call it that, McInnes. He seemed to have sort of 13, 14 players that he really trusted for the most part as well. But hey, it seems to be working for us right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And we made a fast start against Kilmarnock, it's fair to say, taking the lead after 16 seconds. And I think after 16 seconds on Friday night, we were defending a corner because it was the Staggies that came out the box quickest and really looked to put us under pressure. You know, Barry Robson spoke about in his pre-match press conference, that tight pitch, how it's going to be that kind of cagey affair. And if you listen to his post-match comments as well, knew that it would be a game where Ross County look to utilise set pieces and get the ball into the box and use the height that they have in their team. But I think from that first corner inside the opening minute, we'd really set our stall out that we were going to head absolutely anything back the way it came.
Exactly, and that seems to be the beauty of Matty Pollock and Angus MacDonald especially right now. But it was, we expected it to be pretty cagey. As I got close to the game, I was, I hate going up there. Just not for the day out. The day out, it's great, but then it's once you're in the ground, that's the problem. But we seemed to deal with it quite well, but didn't start off as fast. I think probably expected, given Ross County came off the back of a win, I suppose, as well. And they're desperate for points at the moment, but certainly didn't help my nerves sort of any at that point. And it seemed to be the world's longest first half.
Yeah, it definitely did. It seemed to drag on forever. And I think it's funny you say that as well, because I remember turning to Phil on the platform outside the Mallard pre-match when everyone was singing "We're all going on a European tour," and of course Ramadani's missing. You like it's teed up for 3-0 Ross County. You just know that we're going to end up with egg on our face. But there's a different bit of resilience and bite about this Barry Robson team where we keep proving everybody, including the likes of us, wrong.
Yep, absolutely. I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I suppose if you add, as well as perhaps some of the pre-match confidence, Ramadani missing, in fact, it's on Sky as well. It would have been set up for disaster, really.
Yeah, exactly. We spoke about that in the preview show about our record on Sky. And as you said, albeit those games are largely against Rangers and Celtic, that if you like those sort of superstitions. But of course, our Friday night record continues to be mightily impressive. That's now 1 defeat in 14 and 6 wins in a row on a Friday night. So, and I think as well, speaking on Friday night as well, I think, a really good crowd at Dingwall. They're both home and away fans. It looked to be really well received. So that's encouraging. For going forward, I think there was for me a slight doubt about whether or not a Friday night trip to Dingwall would be the one. Maybe different, of course, had it been out with the Easter holidays, but it certainly seemed to work on Friday night past. And that first half, though, as you said, did drag on, and I felt outside the goal it was largely scrappy from an Aberdeen point of view.
Absolutely, I think that carried on sort of throughout the game. It seems to be how it's going away from home for us, but the difference being we're now actually picking up 3 points on the road. What's that? 3 away wins now under Barry Robson.
And I think we've only won 5 away from home in the last season and a half or something. I'm sure I saw.
Yeah, that's pretty ridiculous, really, isn't it? But if that's the way we need to go about things and just make sure we actually win those battles, then I'm absolutely fine with that on the road, especially at this stage in the season. And if that's the way we need to do it, I'm happy. So the fact we do now have that bit of resilience, but also a bit more grit, a bit more determination. Leighton Clarkson, especially for me, in the defensive side of things, I thought was brilliant. Dropping in, protecting the back three centre backs, especially. The amount of times, I can count two, especially when they were right in front of us, of him just booting the ball clear out of our box. And it's good to see that. Perhaps Leighton Clarkson, certainly when he was signed, I thought must be a good technical player, but it's good to see he's got that in his game as well.
Yeah, and like I said, I mentioned that on last week's episode as well. It's a side of his game that I really think has improved under Barry Robson. And I think Barry Robson spoke about that as well. Ways he's trying to improve players and maybe ways that they didn't expect to be improved, or areas of their game that were slightly lacking insight apart from others. As you said, Leighton Clarkson's definitely technically very gifted, but defensively, I think that was always something we questioned, and maybe also we questioned his physicality, and he certainly looked to improve in that area. And going back to Barry Robson as well, he said at the end of the game, and I couldn't help but think this was maybe a slight dig at Jim Goodwin, or maybe more importantly, the football philosophy that is kind of restricting previous managers as well, and maybe an attempt to try and get rid of that horrendous philosophy as well. Was it's not about playing pretty football, and we can't play pretty football all the time. Right now, at this point in the season, it's results that matters. And right now, that is what we're achieving. A lot of people have said to us when we've been speaking about, certainly at the latter end of Jim Goodwin's time in charge, and when we've been speaking about getting a new manager, we don't care about attractive football. We just want to see 1-0 wins are what matters most. And I know Johnny Main will definitely be nodding in agreement, tuning into this segment as well. But there is a case for going up to Dingwall. You look at how Celtic struggled up there previously. As you said, they picked up that win against St Johnstone. So we're in good confidence. And I think, to be fair to Ross County, played well throughout that game on Friday night, and I tend to agree with what Malky said, that if they continue to play like that, they will be okay, despite dropping to the bottom of the table over the course of the weekend. But on our side of things, I agree with Robson. It's sometimes the result does matter, and we put that pressure on Hearts by going 5 points clear in third, and they failed to take it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was vitally important with that game on the Friday night to put that pressure on, especially in the form that they're in. That's probably the last thing they needed. I don't know. A lot of the time, towards going back towards the end of the McKinney Savage, even though we were sometimes often getting results, I was thinking, I'm bored out of my mind here. And then I thought, oh, great, attractive football. Got really excited about that. Sometimes saw it, especially at the start of this season as well, at home in particular. But at this stage of the season, I think especially away from home, it's certainly it's all about the points. Pre-match, I was saying I would have taken a 1-0 win off Duke's private parts, which, 1-0 win off Duke, fine by me, but not his private parts. So didn't quite get that prediction right. But it's I don't mind it, especially at this kind of season, on the way away from home. At home, fair enough, there's probably more onus on you to entertain. Away from home, just do whatever you need to get the 3 points. And they did that.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing that we've kind of seen quite a lot, certainly from some of you that comment on our YouTube videos quite a lot, is when it comes to away from home, it is just about taking points, especially given the way we've been playing away from home. And I think that's a fair point, Calum, that right now, because we've been so poor away from home, anything will do in comparison to previous. And it's interesting, though, because the St Johnstone game, as you said, was absolutely terrible to watch. Friday night was absolutely terrible to watch. But we ground out 1-0 wins in both of those games, and that's 6 points that I feel 3 months ago that squad would not have won those games. Certainly on Friday, I don't think we would have held on for the win in the manner that we did. I just wonder how difficult that will be if Robson was to stay in charge going into next season, what sort of pressures he may face to result to a more entertaining style of football rather than this ground out 1-0 wins.
That is definitely possible, especially if we do, go on finish third, and then you're expecting, they're the best of the rest. Maybe they should turn up away from home and entertain. However, for me personally, I'd still be happy with the same sort of thing. However, our luck might run out at some point.
Mm.
You might think, but for me now, I've changed my tune. Away from home, take whatever we can get, and then at home, there's probably more of that onus to entertain, and you'd certainly expect us to be in control of most games, and then perhaps the attractive football can come out. But even still, if we do need to turn to that sort of dogged defensive work and that grit and determination we've been speaking about, I'd still be okay with that. If it's getting results at this stage, after a year and a half of being miserable, I'm just happy to be winning. I don't care anymore.
So basically what we've concluded is as long as we play entertaining and winning football at home, we'll take the eye-bleeding 1-0 away from home.
Yeah, and usually when I'm away from home as well, I'm not that bothered about the football by that point, by the time kickoff rolls around. So, yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah, you're too pissed to even remember what the game was like.
Exactly, it'll be great.
But as we said, during that first half, Ross County did put a lot of balls into the box, did look to try and, cause us problems. But, I mean, we rave about Matty Pollock and Angus MacDonald a lot on this podcast, but I think Liam Scales even as well deserves a lot of credit for his performance on Friday night. Mm-hmm. Those three were just absolutely superb. And as you said, on the bus home, Donald Trump couldn't build a wall as strong as those three.
Exactly. And I think the photo they posted sort of after that sort of hammered that home. And in addition to those three, especially, Keller Roos seems to be a lot more no nonsense, and the fact he comes out and collects the ball or just punches it clear takes that pressure off at times, because it can be a long game for centre backs having to defend their box like that. And there was one particular time in the second half, probably last 15-10 minutes, and Ewan Stewart next to me said, I love that from him. Previously early in the season, he might have came out, tried to collect it, and it might not have gone quite as well, but he was just clearing ball and man. And I'm happy with that. No nonsense. Get rid of the danger and reset. Fine by me.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember the one you were speaking to, and I thought, oh no, is this just gone high up in the air and is going to fall? But yeah, I thought he was really commanding of his area as well on Friday night. And what I also liked as well was most of the attempts that Ross County did put in on goal, probably they'll be disappointed at because they were straight at Calum, but he just held the ball, went to deck and just killed the game, took a bit of sting out of the game from a Ross County point of view, and just allowed us to reset, calm down and get back into position to start an attack. Didn't really look to kind of start any unnecessary counter-attacks in that second half especially.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned holding on to the ball and disrupting the game. They are also a big fan of the Aberdeen fans doing that behind the goal as well at times.
Yes, although admittedly it was doing my head in, because I was like, if this is going to cost us like last time, I'm going to be absolutely raging. But thankfully, our fans didn't cost us too much injury time and ultimately an equaliser like the last trip up to Dingwall.
God, Glen, we were just doing our bit. We were playing our part.
Well, you would not have been saying that had Ross County banged in an equaliser.
No, but I was encouraging it at the time.
Yes, exactly. I'm sure you were. On Angus MacDonald, though, he came out in the week speaking about wanting to achieve European football and pay back the Aberdeen fans, similar to kind of what we spoke about in Leighton Clarkson. And I seem to kind of take the tone from that interview that European football could be enough to entice Angus MacDonald to stay. And obviously a result like that further increases those chances. Absolutely.
And I think, if he pays us back, then the club should equally pay him back and give him that deal, because since coming in, it can't have been easy given how bad we'd been defensively. He comes in playing with Matty Pollock immediately, two guys that don't know each other, and they seem to have built an amazing sort of bond, not only on the park, but off it as well, it would seem, which is certainly encouraging. And I'm absolutely all for it. I mean, if we don't finish third, if we finish fourth, fifth, God forbid we slip down that low at this stage. But I think just the improvement we've had and the fact, he'd been playing down in England his whole career, came up here, took a chance on us on a 6-month deal, I suppose, as well. You could look at it that way. He deserves to be kept on for me.
Yeah, check you saying, God forbid we finish fifth, where about 3 months ago you'd have been biting your hand off for finishing fifth. It just shows what a remarkable rise and job Barry Robson has done in recent weeks. And Matty Pollock as well. A lot of attention from the post-match interviews was going on Duke for his comments, which we'll come on to in a minute. But I thought Matty Pollock spoke excellently, really conveyed kind of his feelings about playing up here, playing alongside Angus MacDonald as well. Now, we signed Tommy Hoban, who also came from Watford as well. Well loved on this podcast, well loved amongst the Aberdeen support. Unfortunately, due to injury, his career was cut short. I think it's safe to say Matty Pollock has overtaken how well loved his predecessor from Watford was.
I think so. And he is another one I would love to keep around for next season, whether it's permanent, which is probably unlikely, but certainly on loan, especially if he's not going to be getting in ahead of Ryan Porteous at Watford. I thought he came across really, really well in his interview once I watched it back the next day when I was sober. Yeah. I was impressed with how mature he was as well. Mm-hmm. And he really seemed, you get the impression he is absolutely loving it. He seems like a sort of no-nonsense defender, and he's happy to do that sort of the ugly side of the game, which is encouraging, absolutely encouraging, and hopefully going forward continues that. But I really do like him.
Yeah, I just loved how he was the first player that went up to the Aberdeen fans at full time, and he was giving it like what Jurgen Klopp used to do to Liverpool fans when they were winning games, fist pumping their way in, just absolutely loving it. And also what I liked as well at full time as well, in case I forget to mention it later on, was the togetherness that the squad showed. The first thing that they did when that full time whistle, it was like all the defenders, Kellaroos, and clubbed together into like a group hug, and then the rest of the team joined in. There was just the sense of togetherness, as I said, but also just how important that win was to the club, but how much it meant to the players as well. They knew that game had the banana skin sort of feel to it, had the potential to be a tricky one, and we've now put that pressure on the chasing pack, so to speak, being the team that's currently sitting in third.
Absolutely. And even sort of prior to full time, when it was sort of winding towards the end of the game, when we had free kicks or whatever, I remember mentioning to you on the bus back, and I saw Matty Pollock sort of looking into the crowd, and credit to the crowd. I mean, obviously it was going to be fine voice given, the day they'd had in the build-up, but throughout the game, absolutely excellent, I thought. But I saw him like looking into the away end, and then that sort of gave him a little bit lift. He was then barking at the players, getting them up for it, making sure they were staying focused. Just absolutely love that. He seems like a real natural leader, despite, I don't know, what is he, 20, 22, 23, perhaps?
Yeah. But no, really impressive from both the centre-backs, and quite remarkable from where we were at the start of the season anyway. On to the goal, the man of the moment. He might have scored after 16 seconds last week, but it was his 16th league goal of the season that gave us the lead up in Dingwall. But as good a finish as it was, I'm sure Laidlaw will be disappointed, because there was definitely a little slip in there that helped us, but about time we got that bit of luck. But a good as finish it was from Duke. What an assist from Leighton Clarkson. Man, he is just producing once again.
Yeah, it was good when I watched it back the next day after missing it, being in the toilet, relieving myself.
That sounded very dodgy, but...
Oh, yeah, that's true. I apologise for that.
You thought it was County that scored, didn't you?
I did, yeah. It sounded like, I think because of where the toilets are situated, you're not used to, it sounded like the celebration was from too far away. And I remember from someone else was like, oh shit, that's them as well. So I was delighted when I came out and saw people, delighted. It was it's typical that I missed it, and I thought the goal was way later on, given the length of the first half seemed to have taken. But typical that I missed it, but also in the end, not that bothered, because we got the 3 points, and I've seen it back since. Leighton Clarkson's ball was brilliant. Duke did well. And we credited Leighton Clarkson's doggedness, tenacity, perhaps at times at the other end of the park, and that just shows the type of quality he has going forward in terms of his technical ability. No one else in the team probably plays that pass, do they?
No, exactly. And I think as well, what really impressed me as well when I was watching that goal back on the bus as well was how aware Leighton Clarkson is in that passage of play, because it's Jack Baldwin that looks to play the pass into the middle of the park, and Leighton Clarkson's on it before it gets to its intended recipient, pounces on it. I think he takes 2 or 3 touches, looks up, and it's just the way he curves the ball around the 2 Ross County defenders. He said after the game against Kilmarnock, he knows that if he just puts the ball into the right area, Bojan will get on the end of it. And he seems to have that same, telepathy with Duke as well, because put the ball into the area, and Duke has that immense turn of pace that maybe some people still don't expect from him, and he gets on the end, and it looked like a first-time finish into the bottom corner, as we said, aided by the slip from Ross Laidlaw. But if you don't buy a ticket, you don't win the lottery.
Absolutely. And I love that from Duke, that he had that confidence as well. Must be feeling the new haircut, certainly. Marking that with another goal. I love scoring up at County, it would seem.
Yeah, not as acrobatic as last time, but certainly a lot of acrobats in the stands celebrating the goal, or you could just enjoy celebrating it in the toilet, I guess. But quite remarkable as well that was our only registered shot on target throughout the 90 minutes. Again, going back to maybe a point that we made last week about how much more clinical we've got in front of goal. And I doubt you've done your percentages, but certainly improves the percentage of shots on target to goal ratio that Duke and Miovski have.
Yes. So last time it was 51%. So that was 38 out of 50 shots. That's 39 out of 51 on target, which now, that can't be right. Goodness, it's got 76%. No, it was 71%. I can't remember. You've caught me off guard. I tried to work out and be smart. Clinical. That was the point we were making, wasn't it, Glen?
It was. Yeah. Clinical, yes. Unprofessional, like we always are. In terms of the rest of the first half, though, really nothing else that, well, if you can't remember, or if I can't remember, you certainly won't remember us offering. But again, resolute defensively. We mentioned last week about maybe Barry Robson having a choice couple of words to say to the team, despite, being 1-0 up at halftime. I wonder if there was similar said on Friday night, because he might have been disappointed with the intensity, because that's another buzzword that Barry seems to use quite a lot when it comes to looking for effort from his players. But there was a good reaction, certainly at the start of the half compared to last week. But VAR stood in the way of Bojan Miovski adding to his tally for the season and adding an assist to Duke's tally from what was a really well-worked goal from an Aberdeen point of view. And I'm sure those that ran on the pitch and took out Bojan were feeling rather silly when the offside flag went up.
It's a damn shame, isn't it? It was a lovely build-up to the goal, it has to be said, or the non-goal. Yeah. And at the time, I was thinking, there's no way that's offside. I don't know how that could possibly be offside. Who's offside there? I don't even know.
Like, I thought it had to be. Well, it was on Duke's run, but I was like, he can't be offside.
And he wasn't. I mean, immediately after, we were checking sort of what social media, or people who are maybe watching on TV who've seen the angles have said. And I got a text through from friend of the show, resident Hibs fan, I suppose you'd call him, Michael Moran, who, by the way, hope his head's not too sore after yesterday, because I'm sure he was celebrating in abundance. He was saying, like, never offside. That's an absolute joke of a decision. And even seeing it back, I don't know how possibly that could be offside. They drew the stupid lines. The angle they had from it for it was awful, or certainly the angles they showed to those watching at home. I'm in disbelief, and it's a shame. Would it be nice to get Bojan back amongst the goals as well?
Yeah, and I remember Ian texting me as well. He goes, "That's never offside. It's scandalous." And then Brune texts me the image that obviously gone on the TV, and I remember opening it and the guy behind me going, "Is that even offside? Like, how is that offside?" And it's just unbelievable that in top flight football in Scotland, we can't even get a decent angle on a televised game, I think what is more important here is that surely there was better placed cameras in the stadium to draw the lines, because it doesn't even look like the lines are drawn correctly as well. And I can't remember what game I was watching. I'm not sure if it was the Dundee United game against Motherwell, where it seemed to be like there was an offside goal. Yeah, it was Kevin Van Veen's goal.
Yeah.
And they drew the line from the guy's shoulder instead of where other leagues seem to drop from the end of their sleeve. There seems to be no consistency in what lines should be getting drawn where.
And they also said on Sports Scene that they did it at the wrong point, because it was another phase of play by the time Van Veen got the rebound. So they even got that wrong. They came out and said, "Oh, we got it wrong," but it was still onside. And Kevin Van Veen, by the way, he commented on Duke's latest Instagram photo, which seems odd because I can't see them having it. They don't know each other previously. Is that you never know what's going to happen there? Just saying.
Transfer rumor. I wouldn't be opposed to that, because it would say him stop scoring against us.
Oh yes, that's very true. That is very true. And he scored like 18 or 19 goals this season, but we'll save that for another day.
Yeah. But one thing, obviously that was the first contentious VAR decision of the night, but it seemed to be that every second incident on Friday night seemed to be getting checked by VAR. It was going on for fucking ever as well. And I think that was the one that really annoyed me as well, was for both, obviously, we'll come on to the Graham Shinnie one in a bit, but the length of time it took for them to arrive to the decisions, it's just so infuriating.
Absolutely. And even more infuriating was the referee's stupid drawing of his squares. Couldn't even do that properly. So I don't really expect them to get it right. But it's we expected it to be pretty slow and things like that. But 6 months down the line, or whatever it is now, it was October that they brought in. You'd expect them to have not only decent camera angles, but to have it down in terms of the length of time it takes. And it's just, I mean, I know we're going to speak about the Graham Shinnie, but I was standing there. We didn't know what it was about. I don't think it was an announcement to even say what it was about.
No, there was an announcement, I think. But what was also funny was for the offside goal, was that the Tannoy announcer announced the goal was offside before Ewan Anderson even gave the decision as offside. So how is the stadium announcer announcing the decisions before the referee? But yes, Ewan Anderson's drawing of a TV to signal VAR annoys me way more than it should. But shout out to Fitbad Tweets that did a sketch of Ewan Anderson's TV in the shape of a triangle. That really tickled me. But yes, it's not hard to draw an imaginary square, but apparently for Ewan Anderson it is very hard.
This should not be what we're getting our backs up about in this episode.
No, but it really angers me. But he also just looks so lost as well when he's listening to VAR, which I think kind of sums up his performance as well. In terms of us, obviously Bojan put the ball in the net, disallowed, and not long after was subbed off for Marley Watkins in a change that really seemed to confuse a lot in the away end.
Yeah, I had no idea what was going on. I didn't really notice it, but I've noticed a lot of people saying he looked furious afterwards, which I personally didn't pick up on.
No, neither.
But I wondered if it was maybe a knock and they thought, we'll give him 10-15 sort of at half time. Maybe that's what they thought. Or I suppose another thing's maybe in terms of like the intensity of like pressing and things like that. Maybe does Marley Watkins give you more of that sort of dirty side of the game? I don't know. He's I was going to say
a handful, but I don't know if he would give you more than what Bojan does. I wondered. So this is why I wondered if there was maybe that sickness bug going around, that he maybe wasn't fully fit. I then thought, I wondered if the boy that ended up slide tackling him almost had injured him. But yeah, I never really thought of their potentially carrying a knock already through the game. But I guess we'll see when it comes to this weekend. And maybe if he was carrying a knock or a niggle, there was that thought, well, we need him fit for Sunday. Let's take him off and give Marley some minutes. I just wondered as well if we were maybe looking for kind of a change of tact, a bit of a target man, someone that could hold up the play or rough up the Ross County defenders, because they were really, I think, in fairness, having quite an easy night. in terms of dealing with anything that was coming in the air. It was just when we got the ball on the ground and attacked them with pace that was when I felt they were struggling.
Yeah, I was particularly impressed with Smith, the 16-year-old chap for them. I thought he sort of dealt with things pretty well. There's one point where the ball was played through down the channel, sort of looking for Duke, and he beat him to the ball, got a slide tackle in. I was very impressed with him. And certainly, should they go down, I wouldn't mind if we had a little look around him. Absolutely. I'm just tipping loads of transfers at this moment. I don't know anything.
I know, you're not even waiting till the summer to start transferring.
No, I'm just getting excited thinking about bolstering the squad already.
Yeah, it's better than the transfer rumor that Kleibo and Rattray were trying to start on Friday, that we were getting a pre-contract lined up for Mark O'Hara, although after seeing his goals at the weekend, it's probably the first transfer rumor that they've started that I actually wouldn't mind being true.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind it. I mean, took those 2 goals brilliantly, and if he wants to keep scoring against Rangers, then welcome to the Northeast, essentially. But no, I was sort of impressed then, and yeah, maybe they were more looking for that sort of target man, someone to give them a bit more trouble physically, perhaps, in Marley Watkins. And also, you're maybe not far off with the whole illness thing, given Yilber missed out, and obviously Bojan and him are the chaps. So perhaps it was passed on.
Yeah, potentially. Ryan Duncan, what was your thoughts on Friday night of his performance? Obviously, in the second half as well, came close to adding what would have been a spectacular second goal for the Dons, being denied by the crossbar, and it did not bounce over the line. Don't think it even bounced anywhere near the line, bounced away. But other than that, I have to say I was really unimpressed with Ryan Duncan on Friday. Just, I think, a game that he couldn't really get into. Have been impressed with Ryan throughout the season. Players are allowed to dip, but I just couldn't believe he survived. Did he finish the game? Did he get the whole 90, I think? But it was a surprising one for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised he sort of struggled to get into the game, and the nature of it. He's more of perhaps a, I don't know, flair player is a bit excessive, but technically good, physically probably not quite there yet. I still think he's maybe a little bit too lightweight, but he's 18, so that's absolutely to be expected. And in that sort of game where it was very cagey, scrappy, for the most part, I thought, yeah, he did struggle to get into the game, but at the same time, I don't think he's too much to blame for that, really.
No, I had just double checked. Yeah, he did last the full 90, but that's when I go back to the options that we've got kind of on the bench or are limited on the bench, with already bringing Marley Watkins on. You had Dylan Marcandi there, who could play, I guess. Well, he is a number 10, quite literally, in our team, but we've only seen him once since he's joined from Blackburn in January. Matty Kennedy, again, another player that seems to have been kind of deprived of minutes recently, that could play in a more forward-minded role, and did so last time we were up in Dingwall as well, and then Alfie Bavidge as well. But again, maybe not the right role for Alfie on Friday. But yeah, you've got the likes of Matty Kennedy and Dylan Marcandi sitting there that are attack-minded, but there seemed to be a reluctance from Robson to make those attack-minded changes outside of Bojan for Watkins. And yeah, this could be something that comes to bite us later on in the season, or coming into now what really is the business end with the game that's coming up this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Kennedy really seems to have fallen out of favour. Jim Goodwin was starting him in any and every position he possibly could before he left. Well, maybe that's why. But I thought, to be fair, in terms of he could have replaced Ryan Duncan, we could have maybe done with Matty Kennedy's quite a bit more experienced at this level, experienced SPFL player. I thought perhaps that could have been a change they could have made, especially in a game like that where it was very cagey and a bit of an awful game and pretty scrappy. You maybe could have just done with a bit more experience, but at the same time, didn't matter in the end. So that's why Robson's in there, not us.
Yeah, true. I guess it just picked up because the game was so bad, and sometimes certain people's performances do kind of stand out in games that aren't massively entertaining, or that as we view as maybe a bit of a slog, and that's all. One performance that was painful was, of course, Ewan Anderson. But maybe also Greg Aitken in the VAR room, looking for any excuse to help his team he allegedly supports. I'll throw in allegedly there to keep myself safe. Ahead of this weekend, as Graham Shinnie received a red card for his tackle in injury time and his 200th appearance for the Dons. He, like London buses, two came along at once, his second red card of his career. And another one late in the game, I saw someone that hadn't watched the game saying, did he need to make the challenge? I absolutely thought he did need to make the challenge because it was preventing a ball coming into the box, I think on the back of a Ross County free kick or a long throw. Definitely felt the challenge was needed. Did I think at the time it was a foul? Maybe, probably not. Did I even think it was a booking? No. Red card? Absolutely not. But what a length of time Greg Aitken and Ewan Anderson took to deliberate over that one.
I know. I had time speaking to the guy behind me. I was saying I don't even know what it's for at this stage because I said I didn't personally hear an announcement.
Well, that's what the guy behind me said. The exact same. He said, "What's going on?" I said, "The only thing this can be is that Shinnie's away to get sent off. Yeah. That they're checking if it's a red card because there was no sort of appeal for anything within the box of a handball or a push or anything. So it was the only thing that I could think it being. But I don't think anybody within that ground thought, watching that tackle live, that it was a red card.
No, not at full speed. The game the way the game's actually played, not still images, especially.
And the way the game should also be judged, I think, as well, at full speed, not by what frame suits your decision-making needs.
Yeah, I mean, so whilst we were waiting for that, I was like, well, I hope it's a red card rather than a penalty. But also, I know you said that there's no real incidents. I was still thinking, well, some of the ones we've seen given here, like particularly the one on Connor Barron at Livingston, I was thinking, oh God, I'd much rather take a red card at this stage. But the fact that I was even thinking, was there something in the box, sort of tells you in real time, it looked like a fantastic challenge. Having seen it back, okay, he catches him high, but in terms of he goes in, he wins the ball, and of course, it looked like Baldwin sort of pulled out a little bit. Baldwin still caught Shinnie quite high on the shin as well. It seemed they don't want to see us to win. They're desperate. They're desperate for us to not finish third. That's what I've gathered from this game. Not to get the tinfoil hat on or anything, but never a red for me. But Glen, do you think it's worth appealing? Because as at time of recording, Aberdeen have not announced anything yet to say that they are going to do so. But that may come tomorrow morning.
I'm glad you admitted to put the tinfoil hat on because it's usually me that wears it. Look, I can see why VAR has given the red card. Totally understand it from that point of view. Because if you slow a challenge right down and go looking for something, you're going to find what you're looking for in the end. So I can see why, but it's given as a red. But for me, Shinnie wins the ball. Yes, the follow through catches Baldwin high, but where else is Shinnie's foot supposed to go? As someone said, I think on Twitter, said he can't dislocate his hip to twist it, that he avoids the player, but also carry the image on 2 or 3 frames and you could freeze it at the point where it looks like Jack Baldwin stamped on Graham Shinnie. But nobody's speaking about that.
Yeah, I mean, he caught him high, absolutely, but it's not like he caught him with excessive force up there. That's just where his foot was and Baldwin was.
Yeah, if Shinnie had gone in, studs showing, won the ball, and didn't win the ball, we wouldn't be sitting here complaining about it at all. It's the way his foot bounces up after winning the ball that it's the studs show, and he catches the man. And I think Barry Robson nailed it perfectly. He said, he's not wanting his players to go in and make red card challenges, but he wants his players to go in and show that fight in the challenge. And he said the problem is every time there is a challenge now, you've got players going, are you checking that? Are you checking that? And we're waiting around for too long for VAR to, we'll just have a look just to make sure that someone's stud wasn't showing. Just make sure this. And the game is getting longer. The game is getting boring from a fan's point of view. And the game's going soft at the end of the day because you can't make that sort of heavy-handed challenge that you used to a couple of years back. Or in August before this shambles of a system was introduced. And not like we knew that introducing a system like this into Scottish football was going to be an absolute disaster.
Let alone
But
halfway through a season, by the way.
exactly. Put it halfway through a season, it's going to be even worse and favour certain teams. Maybe we could write our own dossier to the SFA with our complaints and see where that gets us. Probably nowhere, because we're not a certain team that plays in blue that we're playing this weekend. But should we appeal the decision, Calum? If you look back at some of the decisions earlier in the season that have been downgraded, Nicky Clark's challenge on Ryan Jack at Ibrox, and I think someone also picked out there was one for Tony Watt at Fir Park where his red card got downgraded to a yellow. Then absolutely, I think we should. I think the biggest takeaway as well is the fact that Andy Walker as well said that it was never a red as well, which for me is a huge shock. I think James McFadden said it in the Sky Studios as well, and Keith texted me to say that Sportsound as well said it was never a red. But look, we're not stupid. We know who we're playing this weekend. We know that appeal is never going to be successful.
Yeah, and I think if you appeal and it doesn't happen, then sometimes an extra game gets added on, which is not fantastic.
Yeah, I saw Carolina say that that's not the case, though. But I think, yeah, he's got a 2-game ban, though, now, with that being the red card. So he misses the Rangers game and then the first game after the split as well. But I think this is why hopefully Ramadani is going to be back for the weekend. But look, if there was consistency in the SFA, stranger things have happened. We would appeal it and it would get downgraded to yellow. There's a precedence there, as we've mentioned, with that Nicky Clark challenge.
Yeah,
but it's the SFA we're talking about here. It's not going to happen.
Then be as well giving up playing, because he's never going to stop going in for challenges, going in for 50-50s wholeheartedly. It's not his fault if someone shits out. But I don't expect it to be overturned. But I'd like to see us try, I suppose, anyway. And it will probably be fast tracked as well, given the magnitude of the game. But that might rush them into an even shiter decision.
I like how you think it would be fast tracked. They'd find an excuse to make sure it's not fast tracked and would be heard on Monday instead.
That's true, but look, I'm not surprised by any of it. In fairness, just given some of the fools that are in charge. In fact, all of the fools that are in charge. Never mind the some.
Yeah, and look, I can absolutely see why it was given, but I don't think it was a red card. Because you're just trying to look for the right angle. And as I said, put it on a couple of frames, you could be questioning why Jack Baldwin wasn't sent off, because his studs are showing it lands on Graham Shinney's leg. So swings and roundabouts, I suppose. Another impressive win, another clean sheet for the Dons. Saw us go with a 5-point gap on Hearts before they took part in their Edinburgh derby, which they failed to win. So we do have that 5-point cushion going into this weekend's fixture against Rangers. Now, a lot has been said on Barry Robson's tenure this time around. Of course, his second spell in charge of the Dons. 7 wins out of his 9 games, 5 clean sheets, 4 in a row now, 6 wins in a row, and the fact we've not conceded from open play in 2 months. That last goal that we did concede was a penalty that Jamie McGrath scored. Penalty to Dundee United seems to be the new penalty to Rangers at the moment. But Calum, is the real test for Barry Robson starting this Sunday? Because we play Rangers and we've got to play them and Celtic again between now and the end of the season. We've got to go to Tynecastle as it stands, although that fixture computer may reverse things, who knows. And potentially Hibs as well in there as well, depending if they can match or better Livingston's result this weekend. But Hibs coming up against managerless St Johnstone. Will there be a new manager bounce for the Perth Saints that could deny Hibs a top 6 space, which would be actually quite frankly hilarious?
Oh, well, you never know. I just think it's funny that 3 teams in the division now have just gone, oh, fuck, we'll just have a former player in charge now, see how that goes. And, we're setting the precedent. It's working, clearly.
But quite amusing that it's not working to the same success for Hearts so far.
Correct. Thoroughly enjoyed that. And, it gives us that cushion. And obviously, with us going in to play Rangers, they are at home to Ross County. And even in the form Hearts are in, you probably would expect them to pick up a result there. So it's a very much a big game here. And I think we will, going into the split, that is teams in and around you that have for most of the season have been sort of similar. You've been very close to them, obviously with exception probably to the top two. This could be a big indicator on how that's going to go, because yes, we've been picking up good results, but if you look at, well, especially sort of the last three, it's against bottom six teams. You'd certainly expect to be beating. Hearts at home, probably maybe a bit of a freak one. I'm not sure.
No, I think you'd probably be expecting to win your home games. I agree with the ones away from home, bottom six teams, struggling to stave off relegation as well in there. I think, I saw an opinion from an Aberdeen fan that I really respect. Neil McDougall, who runs... No, imagine respecting your opinion. No, I'm joking. Neil McDougall, who runs the Northern Light Supporters Club, mentioning about the terrific job that Barry Robson had done, but probably, facing teams that we as fans expect an Aberdeen manager to win.
Yeah.
But this is where the real test for Barry Robson comes. And probably, for all the talk of should Barry get the job past the summer, this is the real job interview now, is these next 6 games, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we played Celtic, we got battered at Parkhead, as you'd probably expect. In fairness, it'll be interesting for me how he shapes up for this one. Rangers, only a few results from it officially being out of the title race, if it's even that anymore, with a 12-point gap.
No, it could be officially over this weekend coming. Of course, if we were to be victorious, given the huge gulf in goal difference between the top two.
That would be good. That would be really good. But we're on fantastic form. Beale has them playing, I think, probably a bit better than they were sort of towards the start of the season. It'll be interesting for me how we shape up for this one. The crowd, last I saw, 2,500 tickets left to sell. I'm sure they'll probably be gone by Sunday.
This episode's out, probably.
Yeah, possibly. The crowd will certainly be up for it at 4:30 on a Sunday. It'll be a big test, but a bit. Also, the fact it's at home, Rangers going in before the split, I'm a bit confident, weirdly, but I hope that doesn't come back to bite me. But I think this is the start of the real test for Barry Robson, because it will be 6 tough fixtures from now on.
And argue it's almost 6 cup finals coming up for us, in terms of we've got that, as you could say, a 5-point cushion, but as you said, with who Hearts face this weekend and who we face, it could be quite easily back down to 1 game. But of course, with the luxury of it being 5 points, it is in our hands with having to face Hearts again. And I think what will be interesting as well for that race for third is how the fixtures play out between after the Scottish Cup semi-finals until the end of the season. And I just wonder how much playing on the Friday night is going to help us a little bit with maybe those knocks and illnesses that we were carrying going into the weekend as well. An extra day's rest over Rangers, who of course travel north on the back of, I should say, a 5-2 win over St Mirren. Goals from Todd Cantwell, Sakala, Morelos, and the man who did damage the last time the two teams met. His name gives me chills, so I'm not going to repeat it. They did miss their compulsory penalty as well in that match. It's a game that's really set up so beautifully for both teams. An Aberdeen team coming in under terrific form, a Rangers team that know that they need to avoid defeat to avoid Celtic winning the title effectively, providing of course Celtic win on the Saturday. But you say that they're maybe playing better under Michael Beale. If there's Rangers fans tuning into this podcast, they might actually disagree, because yes, they've only lost one game under Michael Beale, but I think their performances haven't been as good as when they were playing under Giovanni van Bronckhorst.
Maybe. I mean, shows how much I know, but at the same time, results certainly seem to be a little bit better.
Yeah.
I suppose maybe they're in the same situation where under Robson we're maybe not playing some attractive football, whatever, but we're getting results. It'll certainly be an interesting one. As you say, it's going to be it's sort of all set up for a classic, I suppose, if you could say that. We've not beat them up Tawdry for a while now.
Since the Madison game.
Exactly. It'll be. Oh God, I'm getting kind of scared now, Glenn. I'm getting a little bit scared. It's going to be spicy, I feel like, and without Shinny, but as I say, Ramadani probably going to be back in, and that's probably where we've actually been helped by Sky and the fact that they moved the game to Friday and a game to Sunday, so there's a bit more of a gap. So you'd like to think even if he picked up that illness just sort of before the game, then by the midweek he should probably be involved with training again, and probably don't expect to have Shinny back. So him being fit would be vital for us.
Yeah, it's absolutely important that he's fully fit. Now, you may or may not remember that you posed a question to us on the table on the way back down the road from Dingwall. I'm sure it was you, not Ewan, but would you take a point on Sunday?
Yeah, it was me, so I was on mute there. I would probably take a point. That might depend. My mood might change depending on the Hearts result, but a point at home to Rangers, yeah, I would probably take it. Even if Hearts win, then we're still 3 points ahead with them to play again, albeit at Tynecastle, given what happened last time. I'd probably take it, and I suppose also, given the fashion we collapsed last time, I would say snap your hands off, but I'd be happy, I think, with a point.
I think I wouldn't snap your hand off for a point, because I would love to beat them, given what it could potentially mean, the added spice of that, on top of a 4:30 kickoff live on TV, further enhancing our opportunities to finish third as well. But like you say, of course, the memories of what happened the last time the two teams faced off at Pittodrie still haunt many of us. I think a point would be huge at this point in the season as well, and as you said, set us up with that 3 point potentially, obviously depending on the Heart score, cushion going into the post-split fixtures. And that game at Tynecastle, depending when that's played, is going to be huge. That's going to be that tickets are going to be like gold dust potentially.
Yeah, absolutely, which is very annoying, to be honest. But
thank God for supporters clubs.
That's true. But I suppose also, if you look at it, is if Hearts don't pick up maximum points going into we're going into our game against Rangers, then a point would certainly be good, because we could still be in the same situation or even potentially better it. But it's a lot of sort of if, buts and maybes right now. And I think as the week goes on, my nerves for this one will build up massively.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Barry Robson spoke after the Ross County game about the work that he did on studying Ross County and knowing what to expect. So I have no doubts he will be doing the exact same, probably started on the bus back from Dingwall on Friday night for this game coming up on Sunday. But how do you think he will approach this game, given that we're at home, given that we're in the form that we are in? Do you think he will look to take the game to Rangers, or sit in and kind of frustrate Rangers and then try and maybe cause them the odd problem here and there on the counter? Or what's your opinion on how we approach this game, or how you think Robson will approach the game?
I've got a feeling it might be approached like one of the away games. In terms of,
would that annoy you?
Not necessarily, because then with our fans behind them as well, that can push them on too. And I think we will probably be looking to play on the counter attack. Rangers likely to dominate the ball for the most part, you would think. And I think right now, the way we're setting up, we seem to be happy with that, knowing that on the counter attack we do have Ross McCrory bombing forward, Hayes bombing forward. We've got Duke and Miovski. Duke, who can create something for himself out of nowhere. Miovski's movement as well, causing a lot of problems, especially potentially Suter and Davies if it's them, because I'd be rubbing my hands if it's them starting at centre back for Rangers, given recent performance and the fact Suter's barely kicked a ball for the most part of the season. Not convinced. And a sort of a fresh partnership, I suppose, as well for them. So I think if we do set up to counter-attack and hit them on the break, knowing that we do have players capable of hurting them, I'd be okay with that. And I'm sure the fans will be getting behind them and pushing them on. So when those attacks do come about, they've got the good support behind them. And also, I just think potentially if you go and are too open and commit too many men forward and too many scenarios, regardless of how Rangers have been doing this season, they do have some players capable of really punishing us.
Yeah, and I think though you make a good point about the Rangers centre back pairing going into this game. Of course, John Souttar and Ben Davies didn't exactly cover themselves in glory this weekend or weekend previous as well. And we saw how we managed to take advantage of that poor Rangers backline last time they came to Pittodrie as well. But this is also where I feel that the decision on appealing, or if we do and it's successful or unsuccessful, around the Shinnie red card is huge, because Shinnie being available for this game would allow Leighton Clarkson to move into the 10 and allow us Ryan Duncan off the bench. Now, just based obviously on Friday's performance, I would much rather that creative flair of Leighton Clarkson being in the 10 than Ryan Duncan. But going back to the point that you like to make about the local lads, is that Ryan Duncan will be well aware of what this fixture means to all those in red at Pittodrie on Sunday. He'll know what it means to us to beat Rangers. He'll know what it means to himself to want to beat Rangers. So maybe he'll have that extra adrenaline and extra motivation, and probably, maybe if he sets himself that high standards, be slightly disappointed with his performance on Friday night and be looking to prove myself, being one of his doubters, wrong, and show why he is worthy of continuing his place in the starting 11.
Yeah. Also, however, to sort of go against my local lad argument, but kind of add to it, the man in the dugout, he knows exactly what it's about to play against Rangers. He will understand it, and I'm sure he'll be drumming that into the players all week, which gives me added a little bit of and a little bit more confidence as well. I don't think he'll be scared in terms of allowing them too much respect. I think obviously we might look to play on the counter-attack, but at the same time we will be getting right in amongst them and in their faces when it allows.
So basically what you're saying is he's not going to do a Jim Goodwin and set off of them for 90 minutes and hope for the best.
Yeah, essentially.
Well, I hope not, because I will lose my shit if that is the game plan. And I think he will lose a lot of maybe some of the plaudits that he's earned if that was the mentality and approach this weekend. Then I definitely agree that I don't see it being the case. Going on the basis that Shinnie is unsuccessful with his appeal, or the fact that we decide not to, do you expect if Ramadani is fit for the weekend, that to be the only change to our starting 11?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, sort of we mentioned that, I'm not sure it was the last episode or a couple of weeks previous. The only one you'd maybe think is Horta, but at the same time now, Kellerus absolutely deserves to keep that number one spot. So that would absolutely be the only change you would expect. And here's hoping that the Miovski thing wasn't anything too serious as well, I suppose, if you're looking at that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because we're not,
knackered, absolutely knackered. He's missing.
Well, yeah, you'd obviously be looking at potentially starting Marley Watkins, but then only having Alfie Babbage on the bench as backup to your strikers. Not that that's a bad thing, given how impressive he's been in front of goal this season, but again, pointing to maybe some of the lack of depth that we've got or lack of options that Barry Robson is choosing to utilise currently. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right in terms of assessments for this one, Calum. The nerves are going to build throughout the week. The excitement levels are going to build throughout the week as well. This is a huge game, not only for Barry Robson, but a huge game in terms of our season, because unlike Friday night, the pressure will be put back on us. The ball will be back on our court to respond to whatever Hearts or even St Mirren, I suppose, we can't really count them out too much, I suppose, do this weekend as well, and look to see how we deal with that and how we rise to the occasion this weekend. And I, for one, cannot wait for the game this weekend. I'm so excited for it. I just hope that after the 90th minute, I'm still feeling happy and positive. I'm not coming away hating football and hating life like we did last time.
Oh yeah, or the 90 plus 7th minute.
Yeah, however many injury time minutes they need to salvage the game in favour of the team from Govan.
I know, but at the same time, I'm not confident given the way the last game went that we're going to have any help at all. And also, given the fact they missed a penalty, it was my dad went, oh, well, you know what's going to happen? They missed a penalty last week. There's no way they're going to miss another one at Pataudry when they inevitably get one. So there we go.
Well, there's been conspiracy theories galore on this episode, transfer rumours galore as well, unexpectedly. And of course, praise for Duke, Leighton Clarkson, and Matty Pollock. God, falling in love with a lone player is extremely dangerous. That's going to be sad. I don't know just now what I'm more sadder about, the prospect of Matty Pollock and Duke leaving, or just one of them leaving.
I'm just terrified about it all. And also, we didn't even mention it. English Championship clubs sniffing around Ross McCrory now as well. We could be getting ransacked in the summer. God knows.
Yeah, well, it's been mentioned a lot of time in the comments on YouTube below about the rebuild that we potentially face in the summer. And as you said, of course, with Bristol City potentially prepared to make a bid for Ross McCrory, it could be one of a number of transfer activities. We could have a busy summer on our hand. But of course, if you have been watching on YouTube, remember to leave a like, comment below with your thoughts. And if you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. With the game being played on Sunday evening, I've got a free week next week with Gemma disappearing to Morocco. We could maybe do a live reaction on the Monday evening, depending on your social calendar, Calum, maybe also depending on the result as well. Maybe not so keen for doing it if we lose the game, but we'll see how we feel. And remember, if you are listening into the episode as well, hit that follow or subscribe button on your audio platform of choice as well. Anything else, Calum?
This.
Yeah, please stop doing your weird Andy Considine impression. But until next time, come on, you Reds!
The audio listeners will really enjoy that random silence.